This is a continuation of the chapter on custom graphics, and another graphic is going to be plotted here, and we'll go into even more detail than before. This time I'm actually going to plot the two different axes separately. Once again, we're going to use this upper left-hand window to write a program, and then we will execute statements as they get typed in. First thing I'm going to do is set x equal to a vector which goes from -2 up to 3, and I'm going to set my step size pretty small, and that'll give us a nice smooth curve. And the curve that I'd like to plot is simply y equals x squared. So again, from up here, if I want to just see what all of that looks like, I can highlight them and run them down below here, and you can see we have 501 values for x, ranging from -2 all the way up to +3. The associated values for y start at 4, and obviously the last number here at the end will be 9. Back in the upper left-hand window, now what we'd like to do is we'd like to do a plot. And what we'll do is we'll plot x versus y. And here are some of the graphical parameters. First of all, type equals quote L quote will connect these points by lines. Another parameter that's of use is line width. How thick do we want to make this line for x equals y? Maybe we want it just slightly bolder than usual, so we'll go 1.5 where the default will be 1.0 for the width. For now, let's set an x label of nothing, so we put in the empty string. We'll set in a y label of nothing. We will run our x limits from, in fact, let's do the following. Let's go ahead and put this on a new line. Let's have our x limits run from -2 up to +3, and let our y limit run from 0 to 9. We know it'll be contained there. Then I'm going to say I'm going to print the axes in a custom fashion for axes equals false. So we will take all of that, highlight it, and run it. And what you're going to see when it executes it down in this window down here, you're going to see just our parabola with no axes. Now what we're going to do is come back up to here, and we will plot those axes separately. So first thing I'm going to do is call the axis command. Side equals 1. If you remember from the previous video that there were 4 different sides on a plot, and they're always in the following order: bottom, left, top, and right. So when I say side equals 1, I'm looking at the bottom, or the horizontal axis. And in this case, I'm going to set the labels parameter. And again, what it'll do is, you can see off to the left, it'll tell you what this parameter is doing. We're going to say labels equals true. We do want labels here. And we want them at, and let's just go ahead and put in -2 up to 3. That's where we want our axis labels. And you get a choice on font as well, so I'll say font equals 1, and that should finish it off. So let's see how that does. We will again highlight and run. And this time you can see it has plotted in our axis and done exactly what we asked for. We have labels going from -2 to +3. This will be the x-axis, and we did not put any x label in here. We'll do that a little bit later. Next thing we're going to do is repeat that axis command, but we will modify it just a little bit. So I went ahead and cut it there. Whoops, for some reason it got rid of that axis command. That's bad. I guess I can always just paste it back in. There we go. So for some reason, it wouldn't paste, but this time it did. So now we're going to go to get a vertical axis. So I say axis side equals 2. Again, I do labels equals true. This time, instead of going all the way from 0 to 9, I'll just hit some of the important points. So we'll put in a 0, a 4, and a 9 as the values that we'll get plotted. Font equals 1 is fine. In addition, let's throw in LAS equals 1. This particular parameter will rotate the axis labels 90 degrees. That way they're plotted in an easier way to read. And again, highlight and run. And there is the vertical axis. Notice only 0, 4, and 9 were given labels from this part right here. And notice also the 0 and the 4 and the 9 are oriented the same way the labels are here on the horizontal axis, and that came from this parameter LAS equals 1. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of these parameters that you can put in. If you want to see a list of them and how they work, there is the command help par, and it will give you a view. Let's just do that real quick down below here. Put in a help par. It will tell you all about these graphical parameters. You can see there's all kinds of them out there. And they do various things on the plots, from the size of fonts for axes, colors, all kinds of things. So you can customize these quite a bit by using these global par parameters. What else might we want to do? We might want to throw in some axis labels here, and instead of having them in the default positions, we may want to put them off to the side, for example. So let's try at x equals 3.5 and maybe negative 0.3. You might have to fiddle with this a little bit. We may want to put in the axis x, use font equals 1, and this XPD here is a clipping parameter, and this will allow you to print outside of the plot region with your text command. And once again, if we highlight and run, you can see we have an X label out here. That looks pretty good. Let's try to do the same for a Y label here. Again, you type in text. This will go at negative maybe 2.2 and up a little bit higher than the 9 there. We want to put it up a ways. This will be Y for the Y-axis. The other parameters are the same. Font equals 1. Clipping parameter XPD equals true. Once again, highlight and run, and you can see you get a Y here. Now, in terms of spacing, it looks like the X is a little bit further out than the Y. If I wanted to move that Y up, instead of being at 9.9, maybe I want that to be at 10.3. I simply highlight and run again, and the Y will jump up by a little bit. That looks a little bit better. So this is how you customize a plot. On the previous video, Haley showed you how to export these. You can zoom it up with the zoom button if you want to see it a little bit bigger, and then in the end you can send it out and export it. So there is our plot, and you can print that if needed or whatever. So this does it, or I think there will be one more short video on custom graphics, and then we'll move on to the next topic.